Welcome to Half Century Hangout, where different paths lead to the same table. I'm your host, John, joined by my friends and co-hosts, Luke and Chuck. We're three guys who grew up differently but became good friends with a lot to talk about. On this show, we bring our unique perspectives to the table and dive into everything from current events to life's big questions. We might not always see eye to eye, but that's exactly why we're here. To listen, to learn, and change our minds sometimes. So grab a seat and join us for honest conversation, unexpected insights, and a few friendly arguments. This is Half Century Hangout, where different perspectives make for better discussions. Welcome back to Half Century Hangout, and we're here in Luke's garage again. And what's been going on here, gentlemen?
Gentlemen.
I haven't been called a gentleman since you told me I look like that guy from...
Yeah, from The Gentleman on Netflix.
Gentleman,
Oh, that was something. It took me a while to figure that out. The half century part really came to play.
Sure did.
Really came to play. I'm like, Chuck, you're killing me. I cannot remember who you look like, but that's what it was.
You guys may or may not know this about me.
Oh, boy.
I used to do baseball, sort of fantasy league, when I was a kid, and you'd have to record everything from the newspaper, like all the hits from your players and stuff that you chose, all those types of things. You'd have to record them from the newspaper and figure out everything like by writing it down.
They didn't have anything else to do in Ohio.
They didn't.
Yeah.
And here's what happened. I got super butthurt whenever.
That's funny.
Oh, that is funny.
When it was a strike in 98 or 99. Whenever the strike was, I'm like,
not a big baseball.
I'm
watcher
done.
either.
I'm done with baseball. And I didn't really watch it until maybe 2018, 2019.
Really?
Oh,
You didn't watch McGuire and Sosa?
No. Well, that was in the 90s before the strike.
that was before
was
the
that
strike.
before the strike?
Yeah. That was before
Well, there was
the
a
strike.
strike before that then, too.
Not like the one in 98 where they didn't have a World Series. I don't even think they had a season.
Wow.
Yeah, I was not a happy camper.
I've always been a Pittsburgh Pirates fan, but it's because I like the Steelers.
Big Red Machine, go all the way.
Big
Absolutely.
Red. Cincinnati.
Yep, Cincinnati Reds.
Yeah. Don't know.
Tigers.
about that. Tigers.
Tigers.
Detroit. Gotta love that. Yeah.
You know, 68 was a great year, Chuck. Lots of
68.
influential people and very historical things happened in 1968.
And who was born in 68?
Oh, yours truly.
Hey, isn't that?
Hey. Tigers won the World Series.
That would be Luke.
And the roar of 84.
Is that what?
That's when they won again. When Gibby was on the team and all those
84.
guys. Roar of 84. Beat the Padres.
What year was it where the St. Louis Cardinals and the Kansas City Royals were in the World Series and they called it?
I was just the I-35.
No, I-44. No, I-70.
I-70.
Yeah.
I-70 series. That's right. Was that 86?
I thought it was,
somewhere in there. I think I was.
I
might have been in college.
Who's the baseball team from St. Louis?
the
Cardinals?
Cardinals?
Yeah.
Are they inviting them to vote for the new pope? Those Cardinals?
No, it's only anybody
Arizona Cardinals?
under 80. So
yeah. There's a
I'm
few
not
of those
sure
guys
the
there.
Cardinals.
There might be. Arizona Cardinals, too.
They probably started a little bit before.
They might be.
Yeah.
I think it'd be fun if
That'd be
McGuire
anybody-
shows up.
Oh, yeah. In his
My
Cardinal,
vote is
Cardinal uniform.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
I'm a Cardinal. Oh.
Do they know who who's in the running for the? How does that even work? They don't
For the Pope?
campaign. Yeah, they don't campaign for that.
The
Is it on
Cardinals,
DraftKings?
It is not.
Oh, okay.
It probably could be.
I mean,
I imagine.
I'd throw a number down on it. Why not?
But the Cardinals all vote, and yes, they somewhat, but they are brought together in the Sistine Chapel,
Mm-hmm.
and they
Is there
come
alcohol
together,
involved?
And I've never been there. I'm not a
So-
Cardinal, so
well,
I
I
don't know.
think if there isn't, we should institute that idea.
Here's the deal: it's super secretive,
It is.
and if
It
you
is.
get caught like disseminating the secrets of the activities. Of
Is there like a smoke thing that goes with it?
Yes.
Yep. But if you get caught talking about what's going on inside the Sistine Chapel at the time, whenever they're going through all this, it's like you're done.
So they burn the ballots.
Yeah.
And the smoke comes out.
And that's when you know
white.
Yeah.
If
they've reached a decision, like
and it's black if
they still have to talk about it.
I think that's
how do they color the smoke?
Well, they have cartridges.
I would imagine there's something in
Yeah, I read about this yesterday. They actually have cartridges.
Yeah.
That they put in there.
Interesting.
Yeah. But that whole process is
So Francis was the one who took the top off the Pope Mobile.
I saw that.
Yeah, he was the one that instituted that because it was closed in there for a while. Now it was back open for him.
Yeah.
We'll see what the new guy does.
So we'll
see. You know, I was driving the other day coming back from a little town a little north of us, and I could have sworn I saw a dire wolf running across the field.
Dire wolf.
Whoa. Those
That's
things
amazing.
have not been around in
decades,
forever.
Years.
No, like centuries.
Centuries.
Yeah.
Millennia.
Yeah, a long time. I think we should chat about this.
Let's go.
So what's going on with the dire wolf?
Well, let's explain first what the dire wolf is.
Well, that's what I'm going to say. Is
Okay,
that what I want to say is that by looking through it and seeing what has been done, I'm going to call it a gray wolf with dire wolf characteristics.
Yeah.
Okay. Because
yes,
they had, we could do this deep dive and I could, look at my phone and pull up all sorts of fancy words and stuff. But basically there's a percentage of DNA that you would need to genetically
even attempt
create something, right? And I hate to use that word create because that's a whole nother issue sometimes.
DNA.
Okay.
You got to have live DNA, right?
But they had quite a bit. And there was a percentage that was there, and there's so many, like helixes that they need, or such a percentage of things that they need. So they then used what they used as the gray wolf.
Mm-hmm.
That was the main genotype that they used the other DNA that they went through from the fossils that they have and the things that they have, the teeth and the bones and the things that they have.
I think it was a tooth.
I think it was a tooth. And they used that to then implement some of those other characteristics, took those, what do we want to call them? Embryos. We can take those and they planted them into 2 dogs, more or less. Okay. So I don't know if you guys, probably everybody has seen the videos at some point of those dire wolves howling. Okay. My viewpoint is that as I look at it, and they're calling it the de-extinction.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Which, again, we're going to touch on that a little bit because that word scares me a little bit. Okay. We can get the obvious out. We've all seen Jurassic Park. We've all seen these things, right? And I don't know that we're at that level, but I think that when you go through this and you look at it, where do they go from here?
Yeah.
And what is the purpose of the idea? And I have an answer for that, but I want you guys to think about that. What's the purpose of the de-extinction? What's the name of the company again? I forgot the name. Colossal? Colossal is the name of the company that did it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's throw the government thing out of it for a minute because it's not government funded. It's not something.
No, it's all private.
It's
money.
private. But what's your thought on it? On just the process of we'll call it the de-extinction of species.
Well, it's kind of like asking the question, if we can, should we? And de-extinction, bringing animals back into the biome, the earth, how does that affect where we are? If we got dire wolves and we bring them back and we put them into the environment, how does that affect the environment? Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? Yeah, woolly mammoths is another thing that they're looking at.
Right now, they're at the mouse level, from what I've read. The woolly mouse.
They're from what I read, they're looking at maybe 28 attempting that de-extinction. But to your point, I think it's interesting concept to kind of try to wrap your heads around, right? And I would say I would be for the de-extinction of these different things, simply because we don't know what they are going to do. We don't know we've never experienced them.
I'm not sure that we are ready, able, and these animals went extinct for a reason.
Yeah, I was just going to say that.
And
you just took the words right out of my mouth, John. That's great.
And
well, think about it.
Change because of the environment that you're in.
You could think about history, okay?
Yeah.
In history that science looks at, in history that maybe that you have a mix of religion and science, history changes, right? People look at it a little bit differently,
Sure.
all right? Obviously, the millions and billions of years thing, comes into different things, and you think about things in a little bit different manner. But like John said, there's a reason somehow. Now, sometimes it's man-made. Sometimes these species went extinct because of man,
Yeah.
which I get, okay? But there's others that, according to what science would tell us, went extinct before man was really their enemy, or whatever you want to call it. This dire wolf, you said why, just because we can, should we, right?
Mm-hmm.
The idea is that this company, Colossal, places these dire wolf pups on the thing of Game of Thrones. There's a reason that the company would do this. I mean, it's money. Okay?
Sure.
They're trying to promote what they're going to do, not only just now, but in the future. I mean, they're building their brand or whatever you want to say, right? But the dire wolf, I want you to think about this. I don't know if you know. Do you know how big these things were? They're 4 foot at the shoulder.
Yeah, huge.
That's a big wolf.
Wolf. I'm just saying.
Yeah,
I mean, like you see wolves or you see coyotes now. You see things like they're not nearly that big, obviously. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and the idea that you're de-extincting predators,
Mm-hmm.
and like you said, and you said this, and I was so glad you said it. We don't know what they'll do. That to me is a little bit of a red flag that, you know what? We don't know what they'll do. We have no idea. And how do we know if we got them to the point that they were able to, let's just say, replicate, reproduce, whatever it was? How do we know we would be able to contain it? How do we know that we would? How do we know?
Yeah, you really don't. You really don't. But too, like the whole idea that they're extinct for a reason, I don't know that that's necessarily true. We don't know why they went extinct. Some people think it could have been because of a cataclysmic event, asteroid hitting the Earth. So it wasn't like they weren't able to survive, or the survival of the fittest or anything like that. It's just, it could have been that there was an event that happened that took them out, right? And the other species weren't affected by that particular cataclysmic event because it didn't happen in their part of the world. I'm not sure, but I don't know that it's definitive to say that they are extinct for a particular reason.
Well, but in your thing, it would be that cataclysmic event, whatever that is,
mm-hmm.
caused their demise,
Mm-hmm.
their extinction.
Mm-hmm.
That's still the reason that they were. Okay.
Sure.
Now, the reason might have been something else. Maybe it was disease. Maybe it was
right, and that's what.
Maybe it was something else. I mean, we don't know that, but this is where, when we look at these things, what other influence was there for those species to go extinct?
Mm-hmm.
What other influence can we talk about? I mean, we can talk about a lot of things of what the possible influence could have been.
So I have an axolotl in my office, right? It's his name is Jeff.
I thought it was Axel Foley.
No, that's the guitar player.
Oh.
The axolotl in the wild is actually an endangered species because they're pretty stupid. Really, they're not very smart.
Wait till I tell Jeff this tomorrow.
I know, don't tell him that. But they're not a very smart species. But within captivity, they've thrived because people breed them, and there's no threat against them, right? So all that to say that I think there are certain species even today that are going extinct or that are on the endangered species because they were either overhunted or...
Well, there's definitely a human.
They're just dumb.
And there's definitely, obviously, there's species that couldn't survive whatever it happened to be, whether it was another predator or whether it was the ability for the land that they were on to survive,
or to sustain their.
And we can go into biblical, right? I mean, there was a flood, right? There was a gigantic cataclysmic event that occurred, and from what we've read, from what we know, that was a pretty large thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And somebody made the decision that there was some that would survive and some that wouldn't, right?
Yep.
So I think that when we look at it, like we're talking about this in the broad form of genetic manipulation, right? Genetic manipulation has done a lot of great things as far as medicine goes, as far as treatments for other things for humans and different stuff. With even genetic manipulation is in our plants, and farms use it, all sorts of different things on different forms of genetic manipulation, right? So I think there's real positive things that we can do with it. My concern is that what are we actually using it for?
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, even though you didn't mean to say it this way, are we ready for the result? Because maybe you're tapping into something that we're not ready for. Like, we don't know that we're ready.
Could you imagine going hunting for a T-Rex?
No. I have a hard enough time finding a deer.
Be hunting you.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of.
I don't
that's
want
what I mean,
velociraptors
though. It's like
running around.
It's like
either.
literally. It's like what is our
the
end
movie.
game with it? What do we? What do we? Yeah.
We've seen the movie.
The guy was on the crapper.
Really? Seriously.
I mean, that's what I'm saying, and I know it's funny, and I know it's like it's Hollywood and they play things, but you know what? They came up with ideas for a reason, right? Like to get people's.
Curiosity.
Yeah. I mean, literally. And it is. It's
People's
a very curious subject. It's a very curious subject no matter what. But I think that part of it goes to so many different things that are happening right now. Like, I mean, I'll just throw it out there. Like AI or even Chat GPT for that matter. Like these things that are happening that I think we have to be careful with how we're using it and why. If it's just a money grab, like if that's really what it is, like if it's just Colossal saying, hey, we can do this and we're going to do it because it's cool.
Yeah.
The problem with that is they might achieve their goal of being infinitely wealthy and for their investors and whoever else, but it affects the rest of us. One way or the other, some way it's going to.
The way it could affect us is you're putting something into the environment that isn't in the environment now and maybe isn't supposed to be in the environment. And why are you doing it? Because you're curious? Because there's scientific ability to do it? Or because you want to conserve the endangered species? Why are you doing it?
Like think of it this way. Think of it this way. Do we have the ability, scientifically, okay? Do we have the ability to build and grow better athletes? Do we have the ability? How? Steroids?
Oh,
human growth hormone?
Absolutely.
But have we stopped it? We've tried, and we put limits on it.
Yeah, we haven't stopped
for certain things, but we've done and we know and we realize that it's like at some point the health of those individuals that we would be building is going to be compromised.
Sure.
Okay. And one of the things that I've looked at with those species when they thrived, whenever that was, thousands of years ago. Okay. I'm not going down the millions road. Thousands of years ago, what did they eat? What did they live on? What did they survive on? Or what didn't they? So we're actually possibly introducing something at some point that we would put into the environment that we can't even support. Goodness knows right now our environment's a heck of a lot different than what it was then.
Right.
Okay. No matter how long ago that was.
Mm-hmm.
So are we doing a disservice to not only that, I'm just going to call it a fake species, that fake species, are we doing them a disservice by possibly at some point introducing them to something? We don't know what they ate, but we know that the dogs that they came out of eat
Cows.
Purina or whatever they do.
Well, they eat cows, right?
They eat everything,
Don't
whatever they eat, right? You know, so the idea is that my concern level rises with the same thing that you just said, John, was that why? It's the why of, like, there's so many other things that we could use the science for, and they have. I'm not saying they haven't done that, but I think that we're still far away from so many things that we could use that science for something better.
I think that, full disclosure, I don't want a T-Rex walking in my front yard. I don't think that's a good idea at all. I don't think it's neat or anything.
Chuck lies. He told me he had dreams about it last night.
But I think the ethics around this genetic manipulation and being able to recreate or what'd you call it?
The de-extinction.
De-extinction of these different species or animal lines. It's got me a bit curious, but I just wonder if there is a positive spin on some of this genetic manipulation, what good can come from it. So, and
I do think that there is, and I think that at least when I think of it initially in my head, what I think of is the ability to develop, whether we call it medications, whether we call it nutrition, whether we call it something that would help certain people with ailments that they have. I can't really generalize it any more than that. And I think that that is an important thing, especially considering how big pharma has money beyond what we can even fathom.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. Huge amount.
And I think that, and I'm not saying that this wouldn't be huge money, because it obviously would be, but I think that there are at least potentially helpful ways and positive ways that you could use the technology. That's what I'm saying. I guess that's what I'm getting at, is that I don't know that bringing back dire wolf pups is the idea to do it.
Yeah. And
I mean, what do we need a woolly mammoth for? I mean, like, literally, is it cool to look at? Okay. Yeah, it's cool. Now, the thing about the woolly mammoth that's funny, they have a lot more DNA of a woolly mammoth than they had of the dire wolf, because they have almost an entire, I don't want to say an entire, but a very large portion of a carcass of a woolly mammoth.
Oh, wow.
Like, they have a lot.
That was frozen, yeah.
Yeah, like they have a ton more than they had for the dire wolf. Okay. So the ability to genotype and do that is, you know, like you said, I don't know if I want a T-Rex walking through my front yard. It's like, well, what are we going to do with that?
That's a good question.
I mean, literally, does it just go in a zoo? So now we've got all these other things, right? You've got, and I'm not saying the people are wrong, but that people that aren't particularly happy about animals in captivity, which I understand that too. What are you going to do with it? What are you going to do? Just let the dire wolves, out and run around through Missouri and Iowa and killing cattle and doing stuff, whatever they're doing? I don't know what they do. Who knows what they do? We weren't around when they were around.
How old is the dire wolf? How old is that species since it's been?
Oh, it's thousands. I mean, I don't even know. Sometimes those years, Chuck, they
guess at it?
Yeah. They wouldn't say they're guessing at it, but I struggle with that.
Yeah.
I struggle with the time of even carbon dating sometimes. I struggle with that.
Is there a value to life question when you think about extinction? So, like, when you think about current species that are on the endangered list, what is our concern with preserving their existence in the first place? Which is kind of the opposite side of this de-extinction, right?
And I think that there's something to that, especially when their extinction or the possibility of it is because of something that man has done or that man has created.
Sure.
Buildings or cities or, whatever it is. If we are trying to preserve certain species and we can use that science to help with that, I think it's a good idea. I mean, especially if we're the ones that displaced them. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I guess that's the way I look at it. I mean, every time that I drive by, I love farm fields and I love open country and I love mountains and I love these things. But it's like every time I drive by and I see a for sale sign up on one of them, I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
Because you just have a feeling, and I'm not, if you're a developer, don't take this the wrong way. It's just the idea that we're replacing something that has inherent life in it.
Mm-hmm.
And the possibility is that we're killing stuff off when we do it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that bothers me.
Yeah. John, you've been pretty quiet. What's your thoughts?
I agree that, we should try to be conservative with our resources and keep things around if they are supposed to be around, but there's a natural order to things. And I do think that human beings are a bit of an invasive species, that we have created spaces for ourselves and taken spaces from animals that maybe are not able to live in you look at bears. Bears are becoming more and more prevalent in urban areas because we've invaded in their space. And not a bad thing, I guess, but we just have to be careful with the resources we have here, and that includes our animals and those kinds of things. I don't think bringing a dire wolf back or bringing something back that has gone extinct when the world was a different place is a good idea. And just to answer your question, about 10,000 years ago, the last ice age is when dire wolves were around. And that's a different time in our world. Our world is just different from where it was. So I think we have better uses for that technology. I think that just because we can doesn't mean we should.
It's kind of like this, I don't know if there was this movie you ever saw. It was called Never Cry Wolf. It was a Disney movie back in the day. But it was about a guy who went up and did a study because the caribou were being depleted. Okay. And he went up and everybody thought it was because of the wolves. All right. So he did a study on it. He was going through, and the idea is that the wolves weren't extincting them. The wolves were taking down the weak ones. Okay.
Oh, sure.
And there were hunters that were actually doing the rest, but they just didn't know about it. It was up in Alaska. They didn't know. So it was an interesting take on the idea that, part of it's us for some of that extinction. I mean, recently, obviously, but quote-wise, finding a quote about genetics.
A little challenging.
There's a lot, but there was a quote that I found that I thought was interesting. And it was by Mary Claire King, who she's an American geneticist who's still alive today, but she did a lot of work with genetic research with breast cancer, okay? And the quote is, "We are not just our genes, but we are the product of our genes and our environment." We use that in a lot of different ways. We use that in education. We do that all the time. That is about, is it just born or bred, right?
Right.
I mean, literally, that's a discussion all in and of itself. All right.
Or nurture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's cool when you think about it that way, because I think it opens the whole realm of ideas to say, hey, this is possible, this is possible, this is possible. But again, do we need to go there? I just think that it deserves talk. It deserves consideration.
Yeah.
You want to
Careful.
say? And here's the other part. I'm gonna drop this dime at the end. I'm just dropping this one at the end.
All right, let's go.
All right. Did, whatever, animals, all right, no matter what, they were dire wolves or Tyrannosaurus Rex, do they have a soul?
Interesting question. We'll leave that one in the air because we're coming to the end of this episode, and
Yeah. We do want to know what you think.
100%.
Man, if you want to get back with us, leave a comment on our Facebook or leave a comment in the message section of the podcast review page.
Send us a messenger on Facebook. It doesn't
We will
matter.
send you some swag. Yeah.
we'd love to get some listener feedback. Do you think animals have a soul? Does your pet have a soul?
All right.
Chomp, chomp.
Sounds good, guys.
Peace
All
out,
right.
fellas.
Hey, have a great one. Thanks
Peace
for
out.
hanging out with us here at Half Century Hangout.
See ya.
Be good.